With the recently announced Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, many Nintendo fans now have a restored hope and faith in more Nintendo remasters to come as well. The likes of Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remastered, or perhaps Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, these games that we've heard about but have been waiting so long for, perhaps similar to Xenoblade Chronicles X, they may finally come as well as we wait for the arrival of Nintendo's next generation, the Switch 2. And we even have some different updates from different insiders and leakers that could be offering a bit more perspective on what other remasters may be coming. And that's what we're getting into today on AndresRestart. And now here is a brief message about today's sponsor. Snaxy is the ultimate Android gaming mobile app where you can earn incredible rewards from over 100,000 options while playing your favorite mobile games. And it also helps publishers acquire new users. Every gaming session with Snaxy is rewarding, with over 100,000 items like gift cards, game skins, and in-game coins. Integrate Snaxy into your routine for non-stop gaming, personalized recommendations, generous rewards, and frequent content updates. For more on the Snaxy app, check out the link in the description below. Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are going to be talking a lot about different Nintendo remasters that could be coming. Xenoblade Chronicles X has restored the faith in many in terms of more remasters coming, and we'll be talking about the possibilities of the Metroids and the Zeldas, but I want to focus a little bit more first on some updates and a little bit more perspective on some different insiders and leakers here. We're going to be talking about Pyoro, who has a very good track record and who has shown to still have inside information ever since the Summer Direct Fallout, because they've leaked things like, for example, Emio the Smiling Man, or even in this case of Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. But then also there's been this other leaker, Samus Hunter, who actually was leaking these things more clearly than Pyoro in Emio the Smiling Man and Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. So even though they may have a record that a lot of people may not want to trust, this past year, they've been 2 of 2, so I think they're worth paying attention to. But we also have a report from PH Brazil that we've discussed recently as well, that now we can kind of look at with a bit more perspective, especially because we have something new from a very well-known industry insider, Nate DeHate, or Nate Drake on Family Boards, who has said something else regarding a 3DS remaster that I find to be very, very interesting. But first, let's talk about Pyoro here. We've already discussed the whole eye emoji thing and how at first many people thought they were hinting or teasing at something Switch 2 related because of all the other eye emoji things having to do with that. But it does actually look like now, with the perspective I have, that they were clearly hinting at Xenoblade Chronicles X. Now stick with me here. We noticed this change with the eye emojis and the Nintendo Alarmo clock, but we just thought the eye emojis were again hinting at all the other eye emoji stuff that seems to be related to Switch 2. However, when you look at the top of the page, when you take into account the design of this Twitter page, right? The eyes are right next to this arrow pointing to the left, and if you look all the way to the left, what do you see? The Twitter logo, or perhaps I should say the X.com logo, because that's what Twitter is called now. X. And this X looks very similar to the X from Xenoblade Chronicles X. Ever since they changed Twitter, whenever I get notifications from them and I see that it's a tweet from Nintendo, I freak out because I think, oh, this is something related to Xenoblade Chronicles X, and it never has been until, well, interestingly, yesterday. And just for clarity here, Miguel Parra had asked Pyoro when, and he had said 1 hour ago, which was an hour after the announcement of Xenoblade Chronicles X, so Pyoro already clarified that this is what he was hinting at. However, he has also said there is a little more, and people have asked him, okay, is it this recent Disney trailer? Is it this recent trading card game trailer? And he has responded no to both, so it isn't those. And we still don't quite know what this little more is. There have been some murmurings of something NSO related happening sometime soon. Might it have something to do with that? Possibly, which wouldn't be a remaster unless we're talking about like GameCube Online, but I don't think that's what this would be at this point in time. Now coming back to Samus Hunter here, who has been 2 of 2 as of late, which is why we're paying attention to them. They recently said everyone is eagerly waiting for the reveal of the Switch successor, But get ready, because before its launch, Nintendo has many more titles planned for the first console. So before its launch means before its launch, and many more means more than just one, probably even more than two, and we've just gotten Xenoblade Chronicles X, so I think more should be expected. Especially because we also have this report from PH Brazil about this initiative of remasters Nintendo's putting out. They've been working with different third parties apparently, like Ubisoft, EA, Bandai Namco, and a big Western third party is going to be bringing 2 other games, as you can see from this list here. But also, they themselves, according to PH Brazil, are working on bringing a GameCube and 3DS game. And the remasters we have announced for 2025 so far are Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, a Wii game, and Xenoblade Chronicles X, a Wii U game. We still need to get a 3DS and GameCube game according to this report here. And interestingly, we have an update from Nate the Hate or Nate Drake on FamiBoards. There was a question asked by It's Milsner. Was it Brazil that said a Wii and 3DS game were coming to Switch? Do we know if there were first-party games? And if you actually watch what PH Brazil said, he did say that the GameCube and 3DS games were first-party games. But here, Nate responds, yes, a 3DS game is being ported to Switch. We've discussed this release for several months. Funny thing is, the game has been mentioned many times over the year in various ways. So this looks like a clue as to what the 3DS game is. And the first game that comes to mind to me when I think about 3DS games that have been mentioned many times over the last year or so, because it's been a little bit more than a year, is Kid Icarus Uprising. We've recently discussed how Masahiro Sakurai, on 3 different occasions, has talked about Kid Icarus Uprising, once on Twitter and 2 on his YouTube page, and each time talked about the possibility of Kid Icarus being put on another platform outside the 3DS. And so 3 different occasions, that alone almost sounds like many times over the last year or so. But Nate also says in various ways, and what's interesting is that, well, there have also been the discoveries of the job listings at Bandai Namco, projects that Nintendo has been commissioning that have been for remasters or 3D action games, and a lot of the conversation has been that perhaps that would be Kid Icarus, because Kid Icarus Uprising has fit the descriptions of those job listings. So yes, there's been a great deal of conversation about Kid Icarus over the last year or so, so maybe that's what Nate the Hate is referring to. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I'd like to take this moment to briefly ask that if you do enjoy my content, to please subscribe and hit that notification bell. But could there be another 3DS game that has been discussed in a similar fashion over the last year or so? I think there is room for interpretation here. A lot of people have been campaigning for a new Kirby game, and perhaps a remaster of Kirby Planet Robobot would make a lot of sense. I think that would actually be a pretty good Kirby game to bring over to Switch. But then I also think about the potential of a remaster of Tomodachi Life. They remastered Miitopia, and that became a huge seller on Nintendo Switch. Miitopia feels like something that would be very similar. If that were to be a game that they perhaps announced, say, maybe for this upcoming February, it would be a game that could get huge sales and help Nintendo's financials as they close out the fiscal year. And it's also the kind of game I could see Nintendo announcing for February after having announced Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. I've been making this argument over the last day or so that while they have announced a March game, we don't have a February game. Maybe this means there isn't a February published Nintendo title. But it may also be the case that they wanted to announce something like Xenoblade Chronicles X first because they thought that would appeal to the core fan base a bit more, and so that would perhaps make the next announcement of a more casual game a little bit more easily accepted, something like a Tomodachi Life for February. But really what I'm doing right now is just considering other possibilities. In terms of what I think this hint is referring to, in terms of what actually makes sense, it is Kid Icarus Uprising, but I'm just trying to take into account that this is my perspective, and Nate may have a very different perspective in terms of what 3DS game has been discussed many times over in the last year in various ways. But what might be the GameCube game that PH Brazil has been talking about? Recently, I speculated that it might be F-Zero GX, which has been rumored, but what if it's something a bit more obvious? What if we're talking about Metroid Prime 2 Remastered? Jeff Grubb has talked about how this game was supposed to come soon, but we've also seen this supposed delay of the Switch 2 to next year, and possibly also Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which may also include Nintendo's other Metroid plans, such as a release of Metroid Prime 2 Remastered. So if we have this report from PH Brazil of a GameCube game, Metroid Prime 2 technically would fit the bill. And who knows, maybe the February game isn't going to be something like a Tamagotchi Life, but maybe it might be something like Metroid Prime 2 Remastered. Or even Metroid Prime 3, I suppose we could potentially get both at the same time, but I'm not so sure. They can maybe be separated. We'll see how things pan out here. But if Nintendo's planning some sort of event of some kind, where we get another look at Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, during this event, they may then take the opportunity to also announce Metroid Prime 2 Remastered. It might be a great way to market Metroid Prime 2, which would then also help to market Prime 4 at the same time. But there are a few other GameCube games that many people have been anticipating a remaster for, or a re-release for, and that is Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. Now, I have kind of given up on these as of late because it's been so long, but when I say kinda, what I mean is not that so much that I've totally given up on the possibility. I've just more so gone tired of talking about it because I'm just really not sure when we're going to see it. But now that we've gone to Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, there just seems to be this overall sentiment that, well, if Nintendo can do this, something we've been waiting a very long time for, they can absolutely go back to other remasters that we've been waiting a very long time for and bring them really at any point. And I agree. Especially because it is kind of looking like how Nintendo might be operating now as we transition over to Switch 2 is even more remasters, and these remasters we might not even see announced in big Nintendo Directs, but rather just random Twitter drops, just like they did for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. And then the Directs would be saved for bigger Switch 2 announcements, which we still haven't gotten to, but once that starts happening, then that's going to be the standard. We've seen in most years there being some sort of Zelda release. And maybe this upcoming year, 2025, might be an opportunity to see Wind Waker and or Twilight Princess. But we've also heard about Yu-King-Oh, this codename project for Breath of the Wild, a 4K remaster of that for Switch 2. It's possible that we've just heard about this because it was meant to be a technical demonstration for Switch 2 and not an actual release of some kind. But maybe it's also possible that Switch 2 owners will have access to a Breath of the Wild remaster next year, but Switch 1 owners, Nintendo will still want to offer up something for them in terms of the Zelda fanbase, and that could be Wind Waker and or Twilight Princess, which, by the way, through backwards compatibility, Switch 2 owners would still have access to. As I've explained, I do think there is some reasoning behind this. Am I expecting it? I am not sure. But regardless, it does look like a lot more remasters are on the way. If we can get Metroid Prime 2 and Kid Icarus Uprising alongside Donkey Kong and Xenoblade Chronicles X, that's going to be one incredible package of remasters for next year, in my opinion. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.